Hey there, I'm Andy Powell, and this is the Allcast. Thank you for listening. The following conversation is between me and my mom. I hope you enjoy.
You are so kind, oh my Lord.
All right, so we are rolling.
Okay.
So, you're my mom,
Yes,
and
I have been since
since when do you remember?
when? Since you were conceived.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1991.
Yeah.
Or, well, prior to that, I guess.
Before that, 1990.
Okay, right on. What's that been like, being a mom and just in general?
Oh, amazing. I always wanted to be a mom.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. So even though Dad and I were engaged, and we found out we were expecting your sister,
Mm-hmm.
I was just ecstatic.
So you had got engaged to him before you knew that you were going to have a child?
Oh, yeah.
I've been thinking of that differently my whole life.
Oh, gosh.
I thought that you guys got pregnant, and then you were like, oh, we got to get married real quick.
Oh, like a shotgun wedding.
Yeah, I thought that's what was going on.
No, it was nothing
there.
like that. Oh, wow. Dad proposed to me in 88.
Okay.
In December 23rd
Okay.
of 88.
Very cool. Where did he propose to you?
Well, it wasn't too terribly romantic.
Was it a Walmart parking lot or something?
Close enough. It was the back seat of our friend's car on our way to the train station.
Okay.
But
well, whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to be picturesque to be meaningful by any means.
well, little girls, they kind of dream of...
Oh, right.
Of the,
yeah.
Dreams
crushed.
Yeah.
I see.
No, it was fine.
No, okay.
So, no, we had been engaged for quite a while before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. And you met in high school?
Mm-hmm. We did.
History class.
History class,
Awesome.
Yes. He was... I did not like him at first.
Why?
Because he just... the things he would say... So, I guess miscommunication from the get-go.
Oh, interesting.
He said one thing and I heard something different.
Oh.
I just didn't like him.
And that still happens?
Well, it still happens, but I do like him a lot now.
Yeah, and it probably doesn't happen quite as frequently.
Well, we've worked through it. We're working through it.
Yeah, so communication's been like the challenging point in your marriage.
It really has been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's with a lot of relationships. You say one thing and the other person hears something else. So we're kind of getting into this thing of, well, what I heard you say was... Mm-hmm. It's like, oh my gosh, no, not at all. That's totally opposite of what I meant.
So you'll rephrase it and spit it back to them in your own words.
Yeah, and it really has been helping a lot.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That sounds really helpful.
Yep.
Very
so,
cool.
Yeah, so I always wanted to be a mom. I was very excited to become a mom.
Yeah. So right out of high school, so you graduated?
Yeah.
And Dad did not graduate?
Right.
And what were you both doing right out of high school? Were you working?
Uh-huh.
Okay, what were you doing for work out of high school?
I was working at a place called Jackpot. It's basically kind of like a QT.
Oh, okay.
So they had, a deli.
Convenience store.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a gas station. And I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Got to meet new people every day, and then some regulars, and it was fun. I learned a lot.
Right on.
Working that job.
And what was Dad doing at the time?
He at first was still in Michigan, and then when he came to Oregon, he actually started working for the same organization. They had more than one location, so he worked at the other location than I
Okay.
did.
So you guys are running the convenience stores of the town in tandem.
Well, I guess you could say that. That's a big stretch, but
Right on. And you were born in Austin, Texas,
yeah,
right?
sure enough.
Yeah. And then when did you leave Texas? How long were you in Texas for?
I would have to look, but I think I was only there like 6 months.
Okay.
So I've never been back. I would love to go.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard it's a very unique and interesting city.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I have a lot of friends I know there actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's it's growing. It's also growing as like the stand-up comedy hub. It's
Really?
kind of becoming that. Yeah, because like some very influential comedians have convinced a lot of other comedians to move out of LA,
Okay.
mostly because of due to COVID.
Huh.
So a lot of them are moving to Austin, Texas, which is
Okay.
kind of a place where they're not playing those dumb games.
Cool.
Yeah, that's kind of neat. So you're born in Texas, and then where'd you move to when you were 6 months old? Ish.
I believe that we moved to Michigan.
Okay. But you grew up mostly in Southern California, right?
Let's see. So Texas, Michigan, Kentucky,
Kentucky, yeah.
Washington State,
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky, California, Oregon, Arizona.
Okay, and which of those states were you in for the longest length of time? At once, not total.
Well, it would be Arizona,
Before Arizona.
Oregon.
Oregon. So you're in Oregon for all of high school and a little bit before that?
Yeah, I was in Oregon from 4th grade through high school.
Okay. And then a couple years after. Or 3 years after.
Yeah, around there.
Because we moved here in 94.
Right.
Well, what is the most exciting recent thing that's happened to you within like the last month?
Last month.
Yeah, or happened in your life or that you've seen happen. Just the most exciting thing going on in the last month.
Well, my oldest son got baptized in Zion National Park.
Oh, wow, that's great.
That
Good for
was-
him. I'd love to have him on.
That was pretty darn exciting to me.
Oh, okay. That was within the last month. All right, so, the last 2 weeks. We're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. I'm just kidding.
But you're an extension of me.
Oh, snuffed out. So, no, we'll go back to that one. We'll talk about
last
that.
2 weeks. Oh,
No.
okay.
I'm
I drove your sister to Arkansas.
Oh, yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
That's
big.
pretty exciting.
Big deal. Yep.
Yeah. And now there she lives.
Yep. I think it's gonna be good for her.
Yeah, what was it like to ferry her over there and leave her there, basically?
Well,
After being, within an hour of each other for your entire life. Over 30 years.
it's pretty much the hardest thing I think I've ever done.
Really? Yeah. Yeah, you two are pretty close. You spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's my best friend.
Yeah.
So,
That's sweet.
yep, she has been for a long time.
Yeah. It will be good for her.
It will be good for her.
Yeah.
I'm happy for her.
Yeah. Well, thankfully we have things like FaceTime.
Oh, yeah. That's very helpful. I don't know how people have done it previously without that.
Oh, that was it. Back before phones even, or before you'd had telegrams and the Pony Express. I don't know if the Pony Express was for regular mail. I think that was for military mail or political
Was it?
stuff.
Well, no, I thought it was regular mail, but
It could be. I don't
I
have
don't
the
know
knowledge
these
in my brain.
things.
But before that, you'd either send a letter or you'd just say, all right, well, maybe I'll see you again someday.
Right. See you in
And
heaven.
that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So that is an extremely difficult thing. Is that something that's daily a struggle for you, or is it?
it's not.
Okay.
There's so much grace around the whole thing that it's good, and we have a very healthy relationship. So, like, if we were codependent on each other, it would be very different.
Mm-hmm.
But
What's an example of the grace in the situation?
I think just the fact that I'm not like mourning it all day long. I'm so excited for her, and to be able to see, like she sent me a picture of they're beginning the stuff on the property, and I got so excited for her and for everybody there, as opposed to, oh, woe is me, I can't be there. So to me, that's an example of grace, that I can be excited and be her cheerleader on this side of the country.
Awesome. So, in one of the most difficult things that you've ever had to do or experience, you're finding it pretty easy to cope.
I guess so, because I lean on God, and He gives me the strength to go through these things. So,
yeah,
with joy.
That's a bonus. Definitely a bonus. The first answer that you had was your oldest son's baptism.
Yes.
Which is me.
Yes. Whoop, whoop.
How has that been for you after me, being raised in the faith and then going away from it for 13 years probably, and then coming back in a sense?
It's been very exciting to watch.
Yeah.
Very, very exciting, and has brought me peace. So my grandma, she had three sons, and her oldest son, let me back up a little bit. Her husband was a pastor, and you know how pastor kids get the bad rap of being the rebellious ones, and understandably so. There seems to be a lot of religiousness and strict legalism in those kinds of situations. Not always, but on average, at least during that era.
Yeah, like heavy-handedness. Like,
right.
Do this God's way or else.
Kind of
that sort of thing.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Anyhow, so her oldest son was not following the Lord, and then her middle son was following the Lord, and then her younger son was not. And I know she was a woman of prayer, because I would see, when I would go to her house, there were books next to her chair in the living room that were on prayer. And one time I came across this paper that I don't recall if it was after she had passed away and somehow it was in my possession, or how I actually came to have it, but it was a prayer that she had written out before she even had her third son. So her boys were very young. And it just talked about what kind of men will my boys grow up to be? Will they grow up to love the Lord? Will they not? Lord, help me to show them you. That kind of stuff. And so I know that she prayed a long time for her oldest son, and it wasn't until probably 10 years after she died that he came to a very incredible faith in Jesus. And just from that day forward was speaking the the Lord to everyone he spoke to, and just very on fire.
What do you attribute that change to?
His change?
Yeah.
You know, I haven't heard his testimony as to what caused that, but I'm sure that her prayers were a big part of it, even though she didn't get to see the fruit of her prayer.
Yeah.
And so I think going back to your question about you and about how has this affected me watching you, it's just been very exciting to see answers to prayer, because your dad and I pray for you all the time, and we have for years. And we also have realized that it's the Lord's responsibility. He says in his word that he's the one that goes after the lost. It's not our responsibility to chase you down if you're not following the Lord. We're supposed to love you the best we can. And so that's what we've been trying to do.
Yeah, it must be difficult to have like a hands-off approach in that way, especially with your child.
It is, especially when you've kind of grown up as a control freak. So that's, we've had to learn a lot in the last, I'd say like at least the last 5, maybe 8 years, about grace instead of legalism. Makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And how you look at people and how you talk to people. And
I've seen that change in you guys. It's pretty profound. It's a big deal.
thank you.
It seems to change not only your demeanor in regular interactions, but just also the way that you approach life.
Right.
So that's been pretty cool to see that.
Oh, neat.
That
Thank
kinda
you
turn
for
over.
sharing.
Yeah.
So I guess the reason I brought up my grandma was the fact that when I got to see you be baptized, it just made me think how blessed I am to be able to see the fruit of the prayer and not have to see it from heaven's gates.
How much of that would you say is free will of choice on my part and or on your grandpa's part? This would be your uncle, right?
My uncle.
This would be your uncle. The free will to choose that. That's why I asked what kind of had happened in his life to cause that change. Because there's an event or a series of events that happened to kind of push me in this direction of overwhelm and be like, okay, I need something different. And I've exhausted myself trying all of these things. And so, go back to the beginning and try this one.
Right.
And then boom, results. So I guess my question is how much of that do you believe is, God's making it happen, or me like choosing it to happen, or kind of a union of those two things? How do you see that?
Well, I don't see him making it happen ever. I see him always inviting and desiring to be with his people.
And that's where the prayer comes in. The prayer is asking him to invite more
Yes.
and invite more.
Yep.
I see.
And it just, saddens me that there's people out there that don't have people praying for them.
Yeah.
But
Well, you can gather all those people into one thought and pray for them. And then there is someone praying for them.
it's true.
Even
true.
if you don't know their names.
And I pray over our community a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing that myself lately.
Nice.
Yeah. What is, other than Katie moving to Arkansas, what is a major hardship or a trauma that you've faced in your life personally and have overcome?
Well, I wouldn't call Katie's moving a trauma. It was tough, but I wouldn't label it as that.
Yeah.
maybe my cancer journey.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite a big deal.
But even that, God was just in all of it in ways that just can't, they can be explained, but I don't know that I could explain them with enough emphasis to share how intimate he knows our ways.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is like being late for work and getting all green lights on the way there and making it on time.
Well,
No, not
I
quite.
mean, it's a little more than that.
Well, yeah, it's just since you can't express that, because it's hard to explain those maybe synchronistic moments that happen, those things where everything just lines up perfectly. Situations, timing,
Yep.
all those things, decisions to be made. It's really hard to put. I'm trying to find an analogy for that stuff, because you can't put that type of synchronistic
Right.
stuff into words, especially without telling half your life story.
Right.
So,
I know Pastor Brian used to talk about having a secret history with God. And I really loved that, and I kind of grabbed onto that when he was first teaching us. And so I tried to journal a lot when I started my cancer journey. And for example, okay, I'll just give you maybe a little tidbit. I don't know if it'll help explain how closely I felt the Lord's presence at all times. When I had to go into the MRI machine, that was scary in and of itself, because I don't like going into a tube. It just was like, oh my goodness. But the lady there, she's like, oh, well, would you like to listen to some music? And I said, sure, I'd love to. And she goes, well, what would you like to listen to? I'm like, well, I like to listen to Christian music. And there had been a song that I'd been really clinging to the past few weeks. And I'm just laying in there, and that song comes on. And it just brought me so much peace when I just was afraid. And it's just like the Lord saying, here you go, I'm still here. I know this means a lot to you, so I'm just going to let this song play, and then the next one. And so I wrote them down. I can't recall them right at the moment, but I just remember it being just a moment of peace. And then I used to run a lot, and I had not a mentor, because I didn't really know the person, but what do you call that when you really admire someone's ability and you're like, I want to be like that.
Yeah, like a hero or someone you look up to.
Yeah, like a hero.
Yeah.
So he was like super, super fast, and he and his wife were believers, and I read his book and all this stuff, and always looked up to him and his running journey. Well, when I went in to have my surgery, they had to remove the tumor out of my throat. The name of the surgeon was the same name as this runner.
First and last?
First and last.
What?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm just
wow.
like, and only I would care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very meaningful to you.
And so it was really, I just made me laugh. I'm like, okay, God.
Yeah. Really clear ways of making
just funny.
his presence known.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Even when we first found out, like when we were first sitting in the emergency room and the ER doctor came and said what he felt it to be, somehow I didn't hear that at all. So I'm sitting here texting you guys, you and your sister, and blah, 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 gotta go in for some tests. And your dad's just sitting over there just like white-faced. I'm like, what's the matter? And he goes, did you not hear him say what it is? I'm like, no. What did he say? He says, I gotta go get this thing out. He goes, no, he said it's cancer. I'm like, oh, I probably wouldn't have chosen to text you guys what was happening. And then it was closing my airway. So I was talking funny at the time and having a hard time breathing. And so even that, I could not get emotional. I couldn't get scared. I couldn't well up with tears, because when you do that, your throat tends to swell up and constrict. And so I just sat there, and I just really felt the Lord say, I've got this. You don't need to be upset about it at all. And so that was really interesting.
So when you get that sense that God is speaking to you, where do you experience that? How do you experience that? What goes through your being?
Well, a lot of times it's like, it's not audible. I mean, I don't hear like actual with my ears. It's like a thought that comes to my mind that might be completely opposite from what I've been thinking. For example, if I've been like down on myself and thinking, man, you know, you really ought to be doing this and this and this. And then all of a sudden, a scripture like, be still or be at rest will come to my mind. It's like, oh, yeah, okay.
So it's like an intrusive thought, or like an interrupting thought?
Sometimes. Like cutting through the noise.
Okay. So there's the normal noise of your thoughts going through your head that is pretty common for most people most of the day.
Yeah. Got to get this to-do list done.
And then some interrupting thought that seems like it's, coming from an external source.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it'll be, like I mentioned earlier, a song.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Nature speaks to me a lot.
How so?
Water in particular. I love being near water. I love the sound of it. And it wasn't until I was like in my 20s that I went to a women's retreat with the church. And there was a verse on the wall that talked about his voice is like the sound of many waters. And I had never read that. And I thought, well, that's it.
That's pretty good.
That's why I love the sound of water, because it just connects me to him. And so...
the sound of water is extremely nourishing. Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty cool. Are there any other ways that are, I guess, common for you when you experience God speaking to you or communicating?
A lot through worship. Worship is a lot of different things. You can worship while you're scrubbing a toilet, but specifically worship music.
So the sound of water, certain music, and then sometimes interrupting thoughts.
Yep. And his scripture, just reading his scripture, seeing people talk about him who maybe have just met him. They have a certain excitement and a certain joy, which is pretty neat to watch.
That new purpose energy.
Yep. That, or even children. One of my granddaughters is just very on fire for God right now, and is asking hard questions about the Bible. Questions, some that I don't know the answers to. I'm like, well, let's look that up together, because I don't know.
Kids are the best for that.
They really are.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning a lot by watching her. It's exciting.
That's great. And how old is she?
She's 7. Almost 8.
Oh, wow. And she's asking hard questions about the Bible.
She is.
Good. She's doing her natural born screening process of information.
I love it. Like, she'll take the children's Bible and she open it up to a certain story, and then she wants to get, the grown-up Bible, and she reads the same story. She's like, well, why did they leave this part out in the kids' story? Why isn't it the same?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Super
That's
cute.
impressive for a 7-year-old.
I
Oh,
know.
excuse me, almost 8-year-old.
Yes, almost 8.
Okay.
So, very soon.
So ever since the beginning of your finding out that you had cancer,
Yes.
all the way up until when it's from the beginning, you knew that God was there.
Oh, yeah.
You knew that you were going to get through this.
Yeah. I mean, well, I didn't know that I was going to live, but I knew whether I lived here or in the presence of God, I was going to be okay.
Yeah.
So,
Well, sounds like you were living here in the presence of God.
yeah, there you go.
What is something in your life that has brought you grief?
Well, all little girls, they dream of like a wedding and the big pretty dress and all those things. And
Why is that?
I'm not sure. I don't know, but that's okay.
That's what's is it maybe what's dangled in front of us?
It could be. Maybe it's just a whole Disney ploy in their princesses. I don't know.
Well, I think they've been doing weddings longer than that.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. But
as far as the extravagance of it, I guess.
Yeah. Anyhow, so for me, growing up in a Christian home, I had always been told that I needed to, or that it was a gift to be able to present myself to my husband. And so I had always looked forward to that. But unfortunately, that was taken from me, not of my own choice. And that has it changed the trajectory of my life.
Do you mind if I speak plainly?
Sure.
So you were sexually assaulted.
Yes.
And that, you believe, took away that gift to give to your husband.
Yes. At least in the physical sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. How did this change the trajectory of your life? Or did you think of that at that time? Did you think about that specific thing?
I just thought, oh, well, I'm damaged goods now.
Now I don't have this gift to give.
Correct. I don't have this gift to give. I don't have anything special. There's nothing left to save.
Wow.
What good is it?
How long did you wrestle with that thought?
Well, I think the actual name for it would be shame.
Yeah.
And I wrestled with that well into my 20s after being married and having kids. Yeah.
Shame is much more than just a thought.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a cloak that I wore.
So along with that shame, did it come with any other thoughts or feelings about yourself as a person?
Oh, always just felt unworthy. Not necessarily unloved. I always knew I was loved, but unworthy.
Unworthy of what?
Unworthy of the love, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. I see. Wow.
So,
That's an interesting distinction. You felt loved, but you didn't feel worthy of it.
right.
Isn't that what the Bible teaches us?
Mm-hmm.
What? So you're born unworthy and you don't deserve the love that's given to you by God.
Right.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me.
Well, I mean, just that we can't earn it.
Well, yeah, definitely. No. Well, I feel like what I'm coming to understand experientially through a relationship with Christ is that you don't have to work to be worthy of it. You just have to receive it.
Right.
And you are worthy of it.
Right.
So where's the...
Because of what he's done. Yeah, that's exactly it. You don't have to strive for it.
Well,
So once I finally learned that there's nothing I can do to earn that, and that he's always been there and always showed himself faithful.
Well, we wouldn't exist without that creator anyway.
Right.
So this reaches like a nexus in my brain that makes it like makes my head start smoking out of my ears.
Uh-oh.
I'm like, this doesn't make sense. But yeah. So
Maybe I should make more of a distinction. So I always felt loved by the Lord, and then I felt, I guess, unworthy of other people's affection and love.
Okay.
Is that a little more simple to understand?
Oh, that's a big difference from what I was understanding before you said that.
Back to that communication factor we started off with.
Change a few words and whole thing's different.
Whole thing, yeah. So he's always been faithful. In fact, if I do get to write my book, it will be about the faithfulness of God in my life. Because he's been my constant one.
Yeah.
And always there. But allowing people in, allowing people to love me,
Hard to do.
That's not as easy.
Yeah. I know the feeling. It's a tough one. I struggled with that myself. And it's interesting because I know about you. You're such a giver, and you put yourself aside. In my eyes, you put yourself aside a lot in order to serve other people, or to give to other people, or to help other people, or to basically nurture those around you. And it's interesting how that type of a self-sacrificial approach to relationships exists, and at the same time, if it's reversed and people are trying to give to you and to serve you and to do things for you or put themselves aside for you, it's somehow extremely difficult to allow that, to receive that, to accept that without feeling like, well, either I don't deserve this or, oh, now I owe them something back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of what I learned going through the cancer stuff as well. We had so many people just show up at the door with food and with gifts and cards, and just people that I hadn't heard from in years reaching out saying, hey, I'm praying for you. I'm like, wow, I didn't even know you prayed, but thank you so much. I'm so excited. Yeah. And so just learning to accept that was very interesting.
Yeah. Wow. Strong lesson. So in sexual assault, if you are raped by a person,
Mm-hmm.
and I assume that memory is either going to do one of two things. It's going to be blocked out, or it's going to stick with you. It's going to be imprinted.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as processing those events,
Mm-hmm.
is that something that you have done in a professional setting, or how have you processed something like that?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with how old you are when these things happen. A lot of times, from what I've learned since then in studying some on these things, is that part of you can get stuck at that age.
What age were you?
I was 12 when it started.
So this was a common thing that happened?
It was an ongoing thing.
How long was this ongoing?
About 5 years.
Oof.
And then even after I was married and had children, ran into this person, and their first question was, hey, you wanna? I'm like, no. No, thank you.
So this person's still breathing somewhere right now?
Yes.
Yeah, how do you deal with that? How do you forgive that? Have you forgiven that?
Oh, yes.
How?
I have. Well, It says very plainly in Scripture that if we don't forgive other people, that God will not forgive us.
Well,
that's pretty cut and dried for me. But
sounds like a contradiction to the message of the gospel and my understanding of it.
I'm not sure how.
You are forgiven, or you are forgiven if you do all these things. Because it's a you are forgiven.
Right, you are forgiven.
Yeah, but if you don't forgive others, then you're not forgiven anymore. Is that
kind of what it says?
So which one do you pick?
It says to walk in forgiveness.
Or else you're not forgiven.
Right, just like judging other people.
But that sounds contradictory to me. I don't understand how, if it is you are forgiven, and that's the end of it. If you are forgiven because of what Christ did, then that's the end of it. Story's over.
You're forgiven for your sin, but if you choose to continue to walk in sin, and unforgiveness is sin, if you choose to continue to walk in that, then I think that would make it tough for the Lord to say, okay, I still forgive you. If you're blatantly doing things that the Lord says, well, this isn't the best for you. I want the best for you, and the best is to walk in forgiveness. Let me handle what they did. Let me handle them. They're mine anyway. You know, how have I heard it before? Being bitter and angry against someone else is like you drinking poison and expecting it to hurt them.
Yeah.
When it doesn't.
Yeah, I've heard that phrase before. That is a really good one.
So.
That is a good one. So the way that I understood the concept of forgiveness based in the Bible from growing up in church is because of what Christ did, you are forgiven. And you can sin again,
right?
And you're still forgiven, but don't sin again. But sinning again doesn't necessarily negate the forgiveness that you have attained by receiving the gift of grace of Jesus Christ.
Right. Yes, you said it much more eloquently than me.
But just a couple of minutes ago, it was that you're forgiven unless you're not forgiving other people. Then you're not forgiven anymore. So that's where the contradiction is. Does it?
It seems like a contradiction. Let's see. I'm not so good at memorizing the actual verses.
But see, here we are splitting hairs with the words, trying to figure out which concept makes the most sense according to what the Bible says.
Well, I just know that when I'm not walking in forgiveness, I'm just consumed with that other person.
Oh, okay. So that you are not walking in the grace of God while you are walking in unforgiveness.
Yeah. See, I'm not
the
all
present
that eloquent.
tense. In the present tense, right?
Yeah.
So it's affecting you right now in your daily life. It's not affecting you like after you die, you're going to be unforgiven.
Right.
It is right now you are walking in unforgiveness. Therefore, you are not walking with that.
Right, and there's a barrier. Like, yeah. I can't.
Okay, so this is in
worship.
Present. This isn't after you die.
Right.
Got it.
Okay.
That's the difference.
The words clarifying.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, very much so.
So a lot of times, at least growing up, learning about this stuff, it's like all of this stuff. Yeah, you do it now, but it really matters after you die.
But your relationship is like ongoing.
See, but it is ongoing, but so much emphasis is put on going to heaven when you die or going to hell when you die.
I know, and I think that that's like a disservice that the church has done.
Yeah, because they're focusing on the emphasis of the wrong thing.
Right, instead
in my
of
opinion.
Look what we get to look forward to, and
your
relationship starts now.
Yeah, it's look what you get to look forward to, and that takes away from the present moment in a sense, which ultimately should be walking in tandem with God.
Exactly.
So all of that, wow, that makes so much more sense when I put it in terms of right now rather than going to heaven when you die.
Right, because then that could be almost depressing. It's like, well, okay, I don't get to experience any of this awesome stuff until I die.
Well, let me tell you, I have seen some Christians that are what you would call like dry crackers, like saltines. That it's just you're walking and these are the rules you follow, and you don't do this, and you don't basically
No
don't have a
joy.
fun life.
No joy.
Yeah, there's no, and you don't need to do horrible, wild, crazy stuff in order to have a fun life. But I've seen some Christians that are just not having a good time.
Right.
But it's probably because they're focused on doing everything right, so that after they die, then they can go to the right spot.
Yeah, like the Pharisees.
Which is not really what needs to be focused on in Christianity.
Right.
It's the present tense relationship
Yeah.
with how am I walking through this day.
Exactly. Yeah,
Well-
so if I'm walking in unforgiveness, then there's a barrier and I can't really experience the fullness of the Lord. So there
incredible.
was that verse that just kind of worked on me for a long time. Yeah, I did talk with counselors. I needed to get counsel on that. Then there's also, I was angry for a long time. But then I learned the verse that the wrath of man does not produce the righteousness of God. And I just really wanted people to see God in my life. And if I was constantly spewing anger and venom because of this unforgiveness, well, that doesn't really line up with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. Those are the things.
There's 2 more, right?
Faithfulness.
Oh, 3 more.
Oh gosh, am I getting them mixed up?
No, you got them. There's 2 left now. I forgot about faithfulness. Do you want me to say it? I remember the other 2.
Self-control.
Yep, and 1 more.
Goodness.
I don't think it's goodness. I think it's gentleness.
Gentleness.
Or tenderness.
Something like that.
I like the word tender better than gentle.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah, those are the fruit of the Spirit. And that's something that is quite apparent to me. Whether I've been in the box of I am a Christian or whether I've been outside of that, those have always rung true for me as being the fruit of the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
is those qualities right there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's awesome. Because if you're walking around as those things, then that's the way to be.
Yep. And of course, in my own strength, I can't because I'm
only human.
All right.
Yeah.
Out the get-go, I'm a grumpy cat.
A grumpy cat.
There was
Right
this
on.
song.
Right on.
It's called Whatever's Lovely.
Oh yeah, whatever's pure, whatever's lovely. That one. Who sings that one? Who wrote that song?
Well, it's in the Bible, but
Oh,
she
really?
took it from there.
Oh, so
Philippians 4:8.
So the words in the Bible are fair game for songwriting, huh?
Yeah.
Looks like I don't have to have any original thoughts now.
No.
From here on out, I can just write Bible verses and sing them.
Tons.
Nah.
That's a lot of
I'm just joking. I know. Well,
Contemporary
there's no copyright. You're not gonna get sued for
right.
that one.
No, I don't
Right
think
on.
so. I don't think so.
I wonder if the same thing applies to the Book of Mormon. Probably get
You
sued
could
for
ask
that
your
one.
friend Brad.
Yeah, I'll have to ask Brad.
No, anyway, that song, that verse has meant a lot to me over the years because, like, I would wake up and I would just be angry, probably because I was still holding on to that bitterness toward that person, and it was just infecting my life. I'm like, okay, this has to change. I can't live like this. I don't want to be a mean mom. I don't want to be, a grumpy person to be around.
Mm-hmm.
And so that song came on the radio, and I listened to it, and I just broke down crying. And it just talks about that very verse: whatever's lovely, pure, and honest, and true, think on these things. And so I just really grabbed hold of that and just started using that as my, okay, well, what are you thinking on right now? Is what you're thinking lovely? Is it true? Is it honest? And I just started like doing this little mental checklist until it became more natural to let go of that stuff.
That's beautiful.
Not sure how I got on that, but
No, that makes a lot of sense. How you're processing that the anger resulting from unforgiveness is just like, okay, well, this is what I focus on mentally in order to basically to not focus on the other stuff.
right.
And by focusing on whatever's good, true, pure, and lovely, then the other stuff, I don't know if it's going to disappear totally, but it's going to be not what's consuming your day.
Right. My focus is getting turned back toward the Lord and toward the good things of Him instead of...
Have you ever had any or some major like lapses in your faith where you're like, I don't know if I believe this?
Well, I think right after all that started, it just caused me to kind of question a little bit, but not as much question God, just be a little wild, I guess. I don't know, you would call it your typical teenage years now, I suppose, but...
Okay, so you kind of rebelled a little bit and acted out after that started.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
weren't really following what you were raised to follow as
Right.
far as following the rules and stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
Right on. Okay.
So,
But maybe in your adult life later on, does that ever happen? You had these moments where you're just like, I don't know if this is real or if this is right.
I don't think that I have had that.
Wow, that's awesome.
No, because like I said earlier, the Lord's been my constant. He's been the only one that's been faithful. And I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
There's too many of those little secret moments.
Yeah, between you and God.
Yeah, that have shown me that, okay, you're what I'm clinging to.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. When your mom died, you were 7. How old were you?
I believe I was 4.
Oh, 4. Okay. Being a 4-year-old, it's hard for me to put myself into the mind of a 4-year-old. Do you have much memory of that time?
Little snippets here and there.
Okay, so would you say that was a traumatic event in your life at that time, or was it just like, oh, well, now mom's not here?
No, it was pretty traumatic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your dad changed from that?
He did. You know, in his own grief and his own brokenness. He didn't know how to take care of us, you know. I'm glad he tried, but he kind of checked out emotionally for a while.
How long?
That's a good question.
More than a few years?
Yeah, probably. When he got remarried, I think that helped. So.
Right on.
Yeah.
What other than his emotional shift, what was the major thing in your life at that time that really changed? If there's like one example of daily life.
Oh, we went to live with our aunt and uncle.
Oh, okay.
In another state.
Oh, wow. So you're in a different state than your dad?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. How soon after your mom's death did that happen?
She died in May, and we left Christmas Eve.
Wow. Was there a point after that you guys lived with your dad again?
Oh, yeah. He came and picked us up the following summer, I think it was.
Okay, so you weren't away from him for too terribly long.
No.
I'm sure it felt like forever, but...
It really did. And then as an adult, when I realized that it was only like 6 months, I was really surprised.
Yeah, because it's just this really extreme shift in your life as a little kiddo.
Yeah.
Man. So one thing that I think about fairly often is the inevitable death of you and my dad. I think of that probably too often, but I'm trying to preempt the grief, to see if I can grieve before it happens, so it'll be a little bit less of a blow when it happens. But I don't suspect that that's actually going to work.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. So,
Although I will say this. After I was first married, there was a specific moment I remember where I was standing and the Lord told me to shift my affection for my father to my husband because my father will not be around much longer. And
so you're saying I got to get a wife before you die?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that for me, that was really interesting because I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't realize that my affection was still for my father as opposed to my husband. So that was like kind of a wake-up call for me.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. And I realize, obviously, it's two very different types of affections, so don't hear what I'm not saying.
No, I understand what you mean. Yeah.
But anyway, so you're trying to preempt that, huh?
Yeah, just I've had some pretty big moments of grief about it, knowing that that's going to happen someday, and I'll still feel that closeness with you two, but I won't have the immediate access. If you know what I mean, like I can't just call you up,
right?
In the same way. So how, other than the example you gave of shifting your affections or your attention, the percentage of attention that you give to those relationships in your life that you know are going to die before you do, other than shifting that percentage, what are some ways that I can prepare for that, maybe on an emotional level or on a spiritual level? Because your mom died when you were 4 and your dad died when you were 22?
22.
22. Yeah. And how did your dad die?
A heart attack.
Heart attack. And your mom died from cirrhosis of the liver.
Right. But it wasn't caused by alcohol.
You know what caused it?
There's different stories that I've heard. I heard that she was injected with an unsterile needle when she was in the hospital with my brother, but I don't know for sure. So all I know is that, on average, they considered cirrhosis to be an alcoholic disease, but she didn't drink. So that wasn't the case. But I don't know. It also says in the Word that the Lord knows the day when we'll die.
Yeah, but he's not telling me. So I don't know that day.
I know, but even if you did, that might not be good. I'm just saying that if you trust in that and you have faith in that he's sovereign over all of these things, and that when it's time for Dad or myself to go, and who's to say that we're going to go before you?
Nobody.
I mean, so I think we just have to really live and love to the fullest that we can.
Yeah.
While we can.
Yeah, that's the conclusion I had in mind to come to.
Good.
Just to make every moment count as much as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Be purposeful.
Yeah. That sweet bumper sticker cliche, live, laugh, love.
Well, it's truer than.
Oh yeah, it's a bumper sticker for a reason.
Well, there you go. That's true. Yep.
Yeah, so really embrace that time with the people you care about, because don't know who's going next.
That's right. That's right. None of us gets out alive.
So I'm sure, being a Christian for a very long time, you have imagined or conceptualized of what happens when you die or after you die? What do you think happens when you die?
I get to see Jesus face to face. I mean, I don't know. I was almost excited when they told me I had cancer because I thought, oh, you're telling me it's going to be soon? That soon? And I really had to debate whether I was going to take the chemo or not.
And you chose to.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So.
I remember I was very not excited about you taking chemo. I was like, that's how people die.
Yeah.
You need to do this and this and this.
Yeah. I wasn't happy about it either.
Yeah. Did you do anything other than chemo?
I did a lot that I could as far as natural things.
Like supplements or nutrition?
Nutrition, some essential oils, several different things. I have it written down. I don't remember them, but...
Okay. Did you do juicing?
I did do juicing,
yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. I've heard a handful of different stories from different people who have had stage, I think 4 cancer, like they're, and the medicine people.
The medicine people.
Yeah.
The doctors, or you mean?
The doctors,
okay.
Nurses, whoever's working in these hospitals, giving them their, oh, you've only got this much time to live. Well, they're wrong often.
Right.
So they have stage 4 cancer and they were given 90 days or whatever. I don't know, 3 months, 6 months to live. And then they do juicing, like almost exclusively, and they goes away completely.
Yeah.
Completely heals them. Then they eventually all the cancer in their body disappears and they're 100% cured from it. It's crazy, but I guess that doesn't work with everybody, or I don't know.
I think it depends on the different types of cancer.
Oh yeah.
They were real aggressive with me because of the location of mine. And so that's why, within a week I was in surgery. And then they said that when it's in the throat and the neck and the head, it tends to come back a lot faster.
Oh, okay.
So that's what the oncologist was like, you've got to make a decision. I'm like, well, I just don't know, because I, like you, was very, very against any kind of pharmaceutical stuff. I tried to do as naturopathic as possible. And but I had peace when I decided to.
Yeah. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, going back to the fruit of the spirit, it's like, well, if it's going to bring me peace, that's the way I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Just don't be afraid.
Yeah. I think I depend a lot on your guys' guidance and recommendations, or like I know there's also some of like, oh, how would my parents like to see me live my life? I'll make the decision based on that. I know there's a good bit of that in there too. So I ask for these reflections a lot, I think, to see like, oh, well, how can I make mom and dad happy?
Oh, gosh. Just love Jesus. That's the number one thing I want for my kids.
So what's been something about raising me specifically that's been very challenging?
Challenging?
Yeah, challenging. Or like a season in life where I was just not a good kid or something like that.
You were angry.
Yeah? When was I angry?
You were angry when you were a teenager, and I couldn't figure out why.
Huh.
I was just puzzled a lot. Why were you so angry?
Yeah.
But reflecting on perhaps your relationship with your dad.
Yeah, it was kind of minimal.
It was pretty harsh.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember it being rather harsh as a teenager. I also don't remember a lot of it. And yeah, I just remember feeling like distant from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of his own brokenness too, is that he wouldn't let anybody in. So, whereas now he's just like, come on, bring it on, bring it in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for that insight.
Yeah.
What was something about raising me that was super fun or exciting or anything like that?
You were like the guy. Like, oh, you're Andy's mom?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Katie says that too.
Oh, it's true.
That's interesting.
Yeah. You were just like, everybody wanted to be around Andy because you're the life of the party, and not in a bad way, but you're very engaging with people and genuine, and I don't know, just fun to be around.
Oh, right on. Cool.
I remember one time, we just always wanted to do big things for you. And I remember when your best friend had to move away to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we were able to fly him in secretly for your birthday.
Yeah, I think I cried I cried, didn't I?
You tried not to. You told me afterwards, you're like, Mom, I wanted to cry when I saw him standing there, but everybody was staring at me, But we were so excited to be able to do that kind of stuff, and
yeah, that was awesome.
we wanted to give you everything you wanted, even though we weren't able to.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I'm trying to find the balance in that with my son right now of like, well, he wants this, and I want him to be happy, so I want to give him this.
Right.
But then it's like all day long, thing after thing, and I'm like,
I'm
gonna have to put a stop to this at some point.
That's right. Good.
Otherwise,
for you.
he's gonna come to expect anything he wants any time of the day.
It's gonna be a terror. But
and then better get that set up right now.
Yeah, that's so true.
So kind of putting that in place, working through his, frustrations at being told no and stuff like that.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's good. It's kind of fun because I know that it's good for him.
Yeah.
But it's when I watch him be upset about it, it's like it's either really short lived or it's like he's not really upset. He's just like, come on, I want that thing.
Right.
Yeah, but then there's times where he can get pretty upset because he doesn't understand why we can't do the thing that he wants to do or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most of the time, a lot of the times it's like because there's some sort of risk involved, and I'm like, let's avoid the risk.
He comes by that naturally, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, I bet he does. What's something about my younger brother that's been really challenging for you raising him? Or a season in his life where he was, rebellious or angry, whatever.
I don't know. I think similar to watching you have times of being angry, he seemed sad. And again, as a mom, I wondered why, did something happen? And so I don't know. A lot of times I thought, well, maybe did I work too much? Was I gone too much? Did it have anything to do with me and my parenting? Or, what is it? So he just seemed sad, and that made me sad as a mom. So I can't fix it.
Yeah. And nowadays I feel that same way, sad for him in those times. And oftentimes I think that it might have been because I was mean to him a lot when we were little. I was really mean to him.
Oh.
And I still feel really bad for that because there's nothing I can do to change that or take that back or make him feel loved in those times where I made him feel bad.
Right.
And so
maybe I didn't realize that dynamic between the two of you.
Yeah, because when you're, playing in the bedroom and mom's out there doing whatever, you don't see those things. And
right.
And some kids you'll recognize the things that mom and dad do and don't want to see.
Mm-hmm.
So you might still do those things, but just not when they're looking.
Right. Yeah.
So like being mean to your little brother. And that was one of those things that I know now that I did that, and it was pretty harsh, and I feel really, really bad for that. So I've talked to him about that
Oh, you
a
have?
fair bit. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Has that been good conversation or?
Yeah, he has, I think, told me multiple times to don't worry about it. He's forgiven me, and you know, regardless of, you know, those past times, our relationship right now is really good.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's great right now. I just wish I got more time with him. You
I
know?
think everybody does.
What's that?
Everybody wishes that.
Yeah. Yeah, now he's like a celebrity. It's golden hour when we get to see Ben. I love it. So what's a joy that Ben brought to you? Something that was really exciting about him, or kind of the same version of what I asked before. I don't remember how I worded it.
It was fun to watch him discover new things and to just be enjoying learning. He seemed to like to learn things, and he's super smart. Not that you're not, but you are very outgoing and people person stuff, and for him he was not so much like a book learner type,
Just a little more introspective.
a little bit, but like very, he reminded me of my dad in just the way that he would process through things and like build stuff, and very very hands-on, and yet also just very I could sense that he had like almost a pastoral gifting on him, even though he's not like a people person as much as outgoing. He cares deeply. That was neat to see. Yeah, he reminded me of my dad a lot.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does have that gift, that gift of deep care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just working with his hands and being able to make things.
Well, he can do
just
anything
cool.
now. He can do anything. He did all these floors. He's doing tile showers and
Yeah. It's
all
pretty
kinds
cool.
of stuff.
Pretty cool.
Right on. Well, what about Katie? What was something with her that was difficult for you? You're smiling big.
That was difficult for me?
Yeah, something challenging as far as raising Katie.
Oh my gosh, the sunflower seeds.
Oh, yeah, she'd shoot sunflower seeds a lot.
Oh my gosh, and they were everywhere.
That's the hard thing.
It drove me crazy.
Yeah.
Silly.
That's funny.
Silly. Yeah.
Right on. Well, what's something that that lit you up regarding her?
That lit me up.
Yeah, that was exciting about raising her. Something that was a joy to raise her for this reason.
I don't know. I think because I had her so young, I feel like we kind of grew up together.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned earlier that you guys are that she's your best friend.
Yeah.
And she has been for a long time.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that might be why. And just seeing her journeys of going to Honduras and her passion for the hurting and the less fortunate, and now she's in a job where that's what she gets to do. She gets to help people that are hurting and less fortunate. It's just really cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a special type of person to devote time and energy to helping those who are suffering.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's a lot of those people like that, but not all of them do jobs to do that.
Right.
It's
pretty neat that's been.
I think there should be a lot more jobs coming soon for that type of work.
What do you mean?
I see the world changing in certain areas, and right now we're at a very highly pressurized society, at least in the West.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that pressure is going to give way in some form or another. It's going to break, or there's going to be some sort of a pressure relief valve opened, and there's I think things are difficult for a lot of people, and I think that they might become more difficult. But as we are as human beings, we're put under pressures, and that forces us to find solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's going to be a lot of solutions coming down the pipes in the next couple of decades, and shifting the way that the world does things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to offer a lot of opportunity for those who want to help people to be able to actually do that and to make a real difference.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's, okay, well, I'm handing this person food when they don't have food, or whether it's, okay, now I understand that helping to build this water channel is getting people fresh, clean water, and now they're able to drink.
That's awesome.
And clean themselves and stuff like that. So yeah, I just think there's a lot of that kind of stuff that's happening soon. But unfortunately, it takes pressure and things breaking in order for us to find the way to fix it.
True.
So, have you ever been in a fight?
In a fight?
Yeah, like a fist fight. Anybody ever pick a fight with you, or you ever pick a fight with anybody?
Oh yeah.
You said your hair looks like crap. I'm gonna beat you up now. Stuff like that.
I didn't really care if people said things about me, but it was other people I wanted to defend.
Surprise, surprise. There you go. Sacrificing yourself for other people and their suffering or their hardships. Awesome. Okay. So I remember you mentioned this to me a little bit in the past. So people this is in like high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people in high school were being bullied, and you would go like pick on the bully.
Yeah.
Can you tell a story or an example of where you did that?
No, not really.
No. Okay.
I don't think so.
All right. Right on. So at the time, it felt like justice.
Yes.
To do that.
Yes.
Yeah. Even though it was doing the same thing.
Right.
To that person, you felt like, oh, here's a taste of your own medicine, but
right. And then afterward, I would feel bad.
Yeah. So it's like the drinking poison and expecting your enemies to hurt from it.
I don't know that it was like that. I think I would just like start feeling like, oh, well, they're a person too. They're only hurting. They're only being a bully because something's wrong in their life, and then I just start processing through it. But I don't like seeing that at all, which is really interesting because that's what I deal with now in my job is people bullying other people, and I get to step in and make it not happen. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. How do you do that in your job?
Well, I get to talk with both parties or all parties involved and try and figure out the root of it and try and come up with different ways to help them to have the tools to not be a bully, and on the flip side, not allow themselves to be bullied.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think most people probably don't get that type of thing in their life.
Right. Yeah, we've had some good conversations in our classrooms.
So you're like you mediate in these instances. That's pretty cool.
And we also just talk about it openly as an entire class. It's like, okay, well, I mean, I've had 8th graders ask me, well, what if I want to throat punch somebody? And I'm like, well...
Valid question.
Yeah, very valid question. I said, I totally get that. Because I have days like that I want to do that too. But what do you think the right response would be? And so then we just have really great dialogue about it. And I don't know, I find it really meaningful.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I've shared with them before about being that person and how it didn't really help anything in the end because it didn't address the actual situation. Yeah. Hurting people hurt people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That is true.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
What's coming?
So you believe in Bigfoot.
I do.
Now, okay, why do you believe in Bigfoot?
because I've just heard a lot of stories, and where we grew up, people feel that they saw sightings of Bigfoot, and I don't know, it was just a thing. It's just part of what I grew up believing, and I don't know.
Yeah, so that was the kind of the culture of that area. And
Yeah, I guess.
the stories that you heard were these are like first-hand accounts?
Yeah, from people that I knew. So that gave it more credence.
Because you trusted these people.
Right.
And they didn't have any reason to make this up.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Looking back, maybe they did. I don't know. But at the
At the time, you didn't think,
it seemed
they
real
would
legit.
you didn't think at the time they would make up this story just because.
Right.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you believe in anything else that is controversial and paranormal?
Paranormal? I wouldn't say Bigfoot's paranormal.
No?
No.
No, because you believe he's real. That's why.
Well, maybe.
The other people, they're like, that's paranormal.
Yeah,
That's in the
maybe.
paranormal category.
Huh. Interesting. Now I might have to rethink it.
What about aliens? Do you believe in aliens?
Aliens? No, I think aliens are demons.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What brings you to that conclusion?
It's just my belief.
Huh. There's a fascinating book that I listened to the audiobook version of, and it snuck up on me. It was very interesting, very strange, because I think paranormal stuff is super interesting, and I wanted to listen to an audiobook of people's actual paranormal accounts or experiences, and because there's quite a few of them out there.
Yeah.
And so I looked up on Audible paranormal accounts, or no, it was Alien Encounters, and that was actually the title of this book. It was Alien Encounters. It had two authors. I don't remember their names, but they went through all of this stuff. It wasn't people's individual accounts told by the people. It was read by these guys, or talked about by these guys. And so it goes through all of this stuff about different planets and different beliefs and types of aliens and all this stuff. And at the end of the book, they start talking about the Bible and how all of these things are demonic experiences. And it blew my freaking mind, because I had never heard anything like that. And here you are saying the same thing without having encountered this book. You never read this book or heard of it, I assume?
Nope.
And does
That's
it
just
talk
been
about,
my belief.
Does it talk about that in the Bible? Does it say aliens are demons or anything to that effect?
I don't know that it does. I just, I'm not even sure how I've come to that.
Yeah,
that's
that's the sense you get.
Yeah.
Really? So one fascinating thing that is, I think it's a prophecy in the Bible. It says, in the end, even the elect will be deceived. And that means like the spiritual leaders of the time, the people in the church, the Christian leadership,
right.
Basically. Even the Christian leadership will be deceived. And I don't know what exactly it's referring to, but I have thought about that after listening to this book multiple times, because I listen to these things that are like, oh, they spotted these types of UFOs now, and they are doing these crazy things where they're able to track our grid coordinates. They can stop in midair. They can move it almost instantaneously. All of these crazy things that have been seen by military fighter pilots, different accounts of military fighter pilots that see these crafts. And so when I'm listening to this, I'm trying to process all of that and figure out, like, okay, well, that's actually a conscious mental filter that I run these stories through now. Is this demonic? And I think demonic in nature is different than demonic as in like a demon, like an individual, like entity, or quote unquote life form. But are these things demonic in nature? Is the filter is one of the many filters that these stories go through in my brain when I'm trying to understand what all's happening here. And oh wow, that's crazy that you just mentioned that. I'm probably going to listen to that book again, but anyway, okay, so you think that Bigfoot's real, aliens are demons.
Mm-hmm.
What about ghosts? Where we have ghosts?
Ghosts. I think ghosts would be demonic presence as well.
You don't think it's just a person's soul that died and didn't go anywhere?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. I think that's what ghosts are.
Is that what they're supposed to be?
I don't know.
Oh.
Let's look up the definition.
Okay.
A ghost by Google is defined as the spirit of a dead person, especially one that is believed to appear to the living in bodily form or to haunt specific locations. The second definition is a person's spirit or soul. The third definition is a returning or haunting memory or image. So it's kind of how I thought it was, but you think it's something demonic as well.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Do you think that because it's a fear-based thing?
Mostly.
So most of the time, if you're experiencing fear, it's of the demonic, or if it doesn't go the other way around, because you can be experiencing something that is very alluring and not fearful at all.
Right, very seductive.
Seductive, and still have it be demonic.
Correct.
So if it's fear-based, generally, it's demonic is what you're...
In my opinion.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen, yeah.
Right on. What have you... Do you have an example of something that you've seen? Something evil or demonic that you've seen with your own eyes or in another person? Or will you share a story about that? And you don't have to if you don't feel like that's a good idea.
Well, I just know that, I've seen people with demons and have had them speak to me.
What did that sound like?
Sometimes it just sounds like the person's regular voice, but by looking in their eyes, you can tell that that's not what it is and what they're saying. Sometimes it's an entirely different voice.
Yeah, I've experienced that myself.
Coming out of a person, and it's like, okay, all right, well, we know what we're dealing with here. So, but to see them get set free is truly incredible. Kind of like, I have two favorite spots in Lord of the Rings. My first one is where Gandalf is standing in front of the big... Is it the Balrog? Is that what it's called?
He's standing at the bridge you're talking about?
Yeah, where he says, "You shall not pass."
Yeah.
And to me, that's just such an exciting moment in just like, that's how we should be daily in our spiritual walk. Not letting the enemy mess with us. Taking a stand. So I love that part, but also the part where, is it King Theoden?
Oh yeah, I know what part you're talking
about. Who
about.
is all old and gray and withered and he can't see. And then he gets set free.
Yeah.
And you see the change and the transformation. I thought that was a very good depiction of what I've seen in real life happen with people. And not a lot, but enough to know this stuff is real.
Yeah.
Not to be afraid.
Yeah.
But also not to go looking for it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm not sure how we got on that, but.
Paranormal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's another big, whole seducing thing just to draw people in.
What's that?
The whole paranormal
The paranormal
thing.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Let's
quite
make it
an
interesting.
arena. It's fascinating. It's fun. The rabbit holes of the world.
Yeah.
Or the multiverse. Depends on what you believe. What is other than seeing these people that have been what's the word? I don't know the word. Other than seeing these people carrying demons, or I guess that's the only way I have to say it right now, but other than seeing them freed of that, have you seen anything miraculous? That's miraculous in itself. Other than that, have you seen something miraculous?
I don't know. I think every time I get to witness a baby be born, I think that's miraculous.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's just wow.
Yeah, it is.
Very wow.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
What's something about me that you may see that I do not when it comes to insight? Something about myself that you see that I don't see.
Well, I don't know if you see that you're a good dad. I think you're a good dad.
I'm a good dad when you see me. Be a good dad.
Oh. Oh.
Well, how do you know I'm a good dad when you're not around?
Because I see your son's response to you when you come home.
Oh, that's probably a pretty good indicator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm a pretty good dad. I'm very actively learning how to do it better and better each time, and that is, it actually there's results. I can see the results in the way that he responds to the different things I do, and it's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Was there a certain area you were wanting an answer?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I just assumed it would be negative. I'd be like, oh, there's this thing you do that you don't realize you do that's not good. I don't know. That's what brought the question, but that's a great that I'm happily surprised by your response of that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
What is something in yourself that you take pride in? That you're proud of?
I persevere.
Awesome. Yeah. What's another thing?
Do you have something in mind?
Well, I can think of all kinds of stuff.
I don't know. I can be creative.
Awesome. Yeah. You make a dang good quilt.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the quilt you've
love
made
it.
for me and for my son.
Aw.
They're awesome. They're awesome. I love them.
You know, there's a story in the Bible about this lady who had died, and they had the people were coming out after she had died, and they were all the people were bringing the things out that she had made them. She was a seamstress. Look what she made me. Look what she made me. You know, and they were all so sad that she had died, but they had those things. I think of that occasionally. I had a friend come over once. It was like the first time she had come over, and we were just trying to get to know each other a little. And she's like, well, what's something you love to do? And I said, well, I love to sew. I love to make quilts. And she literally stood and she looked around my house, and she's like, why don't you have any? I'm like, well,
give them away.
Good question. I make them for other people.
That's funny.
So, yeah, that was kind of funny.
Have you thought about making a quilt for yourself?
Yeah, I've thought about it. I started to make one for Dad and I, but then we changed our color scheme, so now it's going to be on the guest bed. But
all right. So, but you'll make one for yourself.
Eventually.
For you guys.
Yeah, I got several in the queue right now. So
oh, okay, right on.
Finish those up.
There's a wait list for Mom's quilts.
Yeah, so I am kind of making one. As I make each quilt to give away, I make a 12 by 12 square of that quilt, and then I'll eventually put all those together. It'd be like a legacy quilt.
Awesome. What is one of your spiritual gifts?
According to the tests that I've taken?
No, something that you walk around with, that you know that you walk around with.
Oh, you mean like for Dad, it's discernment.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay. I would say maybe compassion for others. Try to really think about what they're going through.
Yeah.
Before I just randomly place a judgment on them, which I shouldn't be doing anyway, but
that's a good one.
I just struggle with that.
You never know how their yesterday went or their morning or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. When you experience compassion for people, are you thinking about what they go through? Or are you feeling their emotions as your own?
Oh, that would be more of an intercessory thing.
Is that the same as empathy?
I don't believe so.
What do you think is the difference between empathy and intercession?
Well, I think empathy, you can kind of put yourself in their position. It's like, oh yeah, okay.
Isn't that sympathy?
Maybe I got it wrong. Let's look it up.
All right, so Merriam-Webster says, in general, sympathy is when you share the feelings of another. Empathy is when you understand the feelings of another but do not necessarily share them. Neither of those give credence to actually feeling the other person's emotion as your own, which is definitely a thing, because I do that. Mm-hmm. Even I know it's sometimes this is where emotional discernment comes into play, but sometimes I know that it's my own emotion, or excuse me, I'm butchering that. Sometimes I don't know if it's my emotion or if it's the other person's emotion. So
yep,
it doesn't sound like these definitions of sympathy or empathy actually describe that at all.
right.
I've understood it and described it as empathy, because if you're empathic, then you can feel another person's emotions. That's the impression that I got. But what is intercession to you if it's not sympathy or empathy or compassion?
To me, intercession, from what I've learned, is there's a phrase, standing in the gap. And a lot of times someone will be going through something that is just so intense, and they don't realize that it's just so much. And so sometimes the Lord allows us to have to help carry that burden for them. And at times it's a real physical feeling. And so I've learned over the years to test those feelings. Like if I'm, going about my day and all's good and I'm having a great day, and then boom, out of nowhere, I am just so sad. I'm like grieving. I'm like, okay, what just happened?
So you know that to be...
So then I stop.
Carrying somebody else's emotional weight.
Mm-hmm.
Sharing that emotional burden.
Yeah.
Even though you're not in the same room as them.
It's hardly ever in the same room. Hardly ever in the same space.
And you've tested this.
I have tested this.
How so?
So by asking the Lord, a lot of times, of course, just like, okay, what is this? Is this, am I having a low blood sugar moment? Or is this like something that someone else is going through? I remember one time when I was first learning how to ask these questions, I was at work at my desk, and just like I just described, I was just doing my work, everything was good, I had the music playing, and then boom, I just wanted to start crying. And
what song were you listening to? I'm kidding.
Wasn't that's funny.
The song didn't make you
No, it wasn't that at all.
Okay, so boom, this moment hits you.
Yeah, and so then I stopped, and I'm like, wow, what's happening? What is going on? And then I just had like a person's face come to my mind. Someone that I didn't know very well, wasn't real acquainted with or anything. And so for me, that seemed really random. But then when my boss came in, I said, hey, have you, do you know anything about so-and-so? What's going on with them? Oh, yeah, their mom just died. Like within the last 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm like, oh, that's horrible.
Wow.
And so that really stuck with me. I'm like, okay. And I've had more.
Right,
more
but
than that.
That's a great example of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so sometimes it'll just be a person's name. Like I'll see it typed out, or I'll see a picture of them. And most of the time I will have no clue what's going on. I'm just like, okay, Lord, for whatever reason you're bringing this person to mind. I can sense that they're going through something. Please help them. There have been a lot of times I've been woken up in the middle of the night with just this, there is something terribly wrong happening right now.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, it's not super fun. But then I pray and I pray and I pray, and you just keep praying until it lifts. And then you feel like you're released. Okay, I can go back to sleep. So it can be really intense, but it's also like, what a privilege to be able to help somebody that way and join in what God's already doing. And there have been times, where I've woken up and I've had that and I've not stayed up and prayed. And in my opinion, and I don't have a verse to back this up or anything, but just from what I've learned is that, well, if I don't pray, I believe the Lord will find someone who is willing. Not to use that in any way as an excuse.
But you got to get sleep.
Sometime. But
no, I see what you're saying.
It was very few times that's happened.
That's what I hear is that's an example of this moment that you have where you feel somebody else's emotion or something, and God's inviting you to pray for them.
Yes.
And you can say no, basically.
Right.
And well, at that point, it's not necessarily a command or anything like that.
No.
It's an invitation.
Mm-hmm.
And, to put it plainly, God understands.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a cop-out.
Right.
I see what you're saying. That's very interesting.
Sometimes it's not so fun. Because you feel like, I want to be able to fix this.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever this is. And
I know that feeling very well. Yeah. Not in the same format, but definitely that. What's a way that you see God working in your life today? God making himself apparent. And I don't just mean the Father.
Well, here's a real example. It's been in the last few weeks. So I was looking at maybe getting a second job. And so I started out with all the your typical ways. Oh, I'll check on Indeed, I'll check here, I'll do this. And then when I stopped and I'm like, oh wait, I need to pray about this. So I did, and when I did, the Lord gave me very clear instruction to check with a particular person before pursuing anything else. So okay, I'll do that. So it took about 3 weeks to get in front of this person to actually talk with them, and it has resulted in me being provided a wonderful second job, but through this person is now my boss, and it's just like very, very clearly said to me, don't go any further until you talk to this person.
And boom, there it is.
And there it is.
Another answered prayer.
Incredible. Like way bigger than I could have even hoped for.
Wow.
So I'm just thrilled.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure it beats a convenience store.
Which I could do.
Yeah, yeah. You'd probably have fun doing that too.
I would. It's true.
Right on. What's a fear that you've had that you've overcome in your life? It could be a general fear like swimming, or it could be a bigger fear like being tortured or...
Yeah. Yeah, the irony of I love to be near water. I don't like being in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I don't know, maybe a fear of speaking in front of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's a good one.
Yeah, I
That's a good one.
don't really have a problem with it.
Yeah. I hear that that's one of the most... It's some psychology study or something along those lines. I don't know. There's a study that was done where they try to figure out what most people are the most afraid of, and that's it. It's public speaking.
Yeah, it's interesting.
How'd you overcome it? Enough time passed. You're just like,
I
I don't care
know.
what they think.
I guess maybe because I'm over 50. It's like, meh, I don't care.
Yeah. Right on.
If they don't want to listen to me, they won't listen to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure.
Interesting. Cool. Well, that's a great one. Right on. Well, do you have a bucket list?
Oh, bucket list.
Do you have one?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've been...
think so?
My friend Liz and I, we've been trying to help each other cross off our bucket list stuff.
Doesn't sound like a very active list.
It's not super.
Okay.
Like, I had... my first item on my bucket list was that I wanted to run a marathon before I was 40.
And you did it.
And I did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's something that's on there that you haven't done?
I haven't seen Niagara Falls yet.
Oh, is it still running?
It's still, I think, from what I hear.
Right on. So that's on your bucket
Yeah,
list to see
I'd
Niagara
like to
Falls.
go see that.
Okay. You have to go to New York for that, you know.
Well, thankfully, I am going to New York.
Are you?
Yeah.
When?
I think we're supposed to go in 2024.
Oh, wow. One more bucket list item that's not Niagara Falls.
I have a dream of competing in an Ironman competition.
Yeah?
But that seems very, very distant at this
Yeah, because
point.
your knee is hurting.
Yep.
Yeah.
But maybe.
Well, yeah, maybe. Yeah, focus on that knee and you'll see what's next.
Yep.
Awesome. An Ironman would be pretty incredible. I would love to do that. That'd be cool. If you could give a piece of advice to anybody and everybody, what would it be?
Trust in Jesus. He will not let you down.
Awesome. Right on. Was there anything else that you want to talk about or share or say?
I think it was really interesting when the oncologist asked me to decide, what do I get up for in the morning? I had to think about that for a little bit.
Yeah, what was your answer?
Well, at the time it was two beautiful little girls, two little granddaughters.
Yeah.
And now I have more than that.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's a good question. What do you get up for in the morning?
It's just interesting to see, like, if you're looking and actively asking God, what are you doing today? What can I join you in? How can I be a tool used by you to encourage other people?
Yeah.
You know, and that doesn't, you know, I work in a public school. I don't tote my Bible around and point out scripture to people. But I can still be loving and kind and encouraging and...
Yeah, the fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah, back to that.
Yeah. Well, I think we can end with that.
Okay.
Love, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Mom.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. You are so kind. Oh.